presentation, we're going to go through warehouse management versus extended warehouse management for inbound processes. And this is the first in our webinar series for our ongoing series on SAP warehouse management and extended warehouse management. Take care of some housekeeping items at a high level. I'm going to provide you with a brief overview of LogiStar Solutions, and then I'm going to hand the microphone over to Doug Scott, one of our senior warehouse management consultants with LogiStar. During the presentation, please submit any questions into the chat, and we'll respond to the questions at the end of the presentation. If we don't get to your questions, feel free to send an email to the email address that will be listed at the end of the slide, which is info@logi-star.com, and we'll follow up with those questions in the near term. In addition, we'll be sending out a survey email on the presentation, and we'd appreciate your candid feedback as we move forward with our presentations here in our webinar series. We'd like to get some feedback so that we can improve it and increase the value of the content that we're providing here. So let's get started. LogiStar Solutions is a solutions-focused SAP systems integrator with a laser point focus on warehouse management. So we really do one thing, and we do it very well. While we're what you might call a boutique consulting firm, we hold the deepest expertise and experience in North America with SAP Extended Warehouse Management and Warehouse Management. This is something that's validated not only by our customers, but by SAP as well, with our many credentials, including some exclusive credentials such as our RDS or Rapid Deployment Status with SAP. Being a solutions-focused company, we're really work across all industries. Some of the more complex ones that you may see here on the slide include industries such as retail and wholesale distribution, with really some high volume and high complexity operations with automation, etc. So taking a look at the solutions that we provide, again, with SAP Warehouse Management being our focus, what our goal is to do is provide a comprehensive solution for our customers. So in the top left corner, what you see is data collection solutions from SAP, where we work with SAP's native solutions such as SAP Console and ITS Mobile. As well, one of our products is LogiVoice, which is a voice picking solution that basically leverages your SAP Console and ITS Mobile investment, leveraging those existing transactions. On the top right corner, transportation management is something that's always tied into the warehouse operations, and this is where we provide our XPS solution for small parcel shipping, as well as work with SAP's latest SAP transportation management solution for our customers that have a much broader scope of shipping requirements. Bottom left, leveraging some of SAP's reporting tools to optimize their operations, so working with SAP's labor management solution, which is embedded within EWM, and working with some of the advanced warehouse and labor analytics that are provided with some of the additional reporting offerings from SAP. Going outside of the traditional SAP solutions that we provide, we also provide management consulting to help develop your supply chain execution strategy within SAP and really develop your solution architecture in the initial design phase of the projects. So with that, I'm going to hand over the presentation to Doug Scott, our Senior Warehouse Management Consultant, who will go through today's webinar, which is Inbound Processes for Warehouse Management and Extended Warehouse Management.
Okay, thank you, Gavin. This is Doug Scott speaking. I'm a Senior SAP Consultant with LogiStar. And this is our agenda for today. We're going to start with an overview of the inbound processes as they're supported by the ERP warehouse management and extended warehouse management solutions. We're going to highlight some of the differences between those two solutions. We'll look at some of the core functionality provided in EWM for the inbound process, followed by a demonstration of some of this core functionality. Then we'll take a quick look at some additional functionality supported by EWM that can be worked into your inbound process. And finally, we'll take some time at the end of the webinar for some questions and answers. So we're going to start with a brief comparison of the two warehouse management solutions offered by SAP. The extended warehouse management solution is a component of SAP's supply chain management application suite. It was first released by SAP in 2006. The ER PWM solution, of course, that's the traditional WMS that's been included in SAP's ERP software since the 1990s. So this is the inbound process that's supported by the ER PWM system. As you know, or as you can see here, it's a fairly simple flow involving a single transfer order to organize the placement of received materials into appropriate storage bins in the warehouse. The addition of inventory is usually handled by a GR posting in the inventory management system. ER PWM provides this basic put-away process that serves the needs of many straightforward warehousing operations. Additional functionalities can be implemented in ER PWM using add-ons and user exits and various customizations. For example, the unloading of materials from inbound vehicles is possible if you use the yard management component of the logistics execution system in SAP. With extended warehouse management, we're able to model a much more complex inbound process. If your process requires the breaking down of mixed pallets into homogeneous pallets prior to being put away in the warehouse, this can be accomplished with a deconsolidation step. If you require inspections or value-added services such as labeling or repacking to be carried out in the warehouse on incoming goods, these activities can also be executed within EWM. This slide highlights some of the key differences between EWM and ER PWM in relation to the inbound process. Firstly, the EWM system gives you much greater flexibility in your process design with standard configuration settings. More complex put-away strategies are possible with the use of certain configuration and master data. For example, we can specify an unlimited number of storage types in storage type searches for put-aways, as compared to WM, where we have a limit of 30 storage types. Packaging specifications master data can be set up and used in the inbound process to achieve automatic palletization of incoming goods. And we can include a sequence of process steps in the overall inbound process, such as deconsolidation, inspection, and value-added services. The functionality for yard management, cross-docking, task and resource management, and value-added services are completely embedded within EWM without the need for any extension sets or additional application components from SAP. EWM also offers complete support for slotting and rearrangement, as well as support for serialized materials. EWM has the ability to connect directly to and control the activities of your external systems, such as AS, RS, and conveyor systems. This is done via the EWM Material Flow System, or MFS, which can send warehouse tasks to the PLCs, programmable logic controllers, in your external system, and it can receive confirmations back on those tasks from the controller. This is in comparison to the ALE and IDOC type of interface, which has been and still is supported by the ER PWM system. EWM has built-in labor management capability for tracking and evaluating labor costs and effectiveness, which is not available in ER PWM. There are multiple cross-docking scenarios that can be implemented in EWM, and those are listed here on this slide. And finally, EWM provides new monitoring functionality not available in the ER PWM system. The warehouse management monitor can be tailored to match your own specific warehouse environment, and you use it to monitor the status of all warehouse documents and activities. So this next slide highlights some high-level differences between EWM and ER PWM with regards to deployment options, master data, and warehouse structure. Since EWM is not part of the standard ERP software, there are several options available for deploying it in your system's landscape. You can have it installed as an add-on within your existing ERP system, along with some basis components from the SCM software. Or you can have it installed on a separate dedicated SCM server. As you'll see in the demonstration in a few minutes, deliveries that are created within the ERP system are interfaced to the EWM system. In terms of master data, much of the relevant master data needed to process activities in EWM is replicated from the ERP system to the EWM system. For example, ERP material master data is replicated to the EWM system and becomes warehouse product master data. Vendors, customers, those are other examples of ERP master data that needs to be replicated into EWM. And in terms of warehouse structure, all the elements of the ERP WM warehouse structure are present in EWM, but with some additions and changes. For example, storage type now contains up to 4 characters in EWM instead of 3, and the storage bin number can contain up to 18 characters instead of 10. Storage bins can be grouped into activity areas for the purposes of optimizing your routing of tasks within the warehouse. And finally, storage types can be defined to represent staging areas, work centers, yards, doors, material flow or conveyor systems, and so on. So now we can move on to the next section and review the core functionality provided in EWM for the inbound process. This is an overview of what I'll be showing you in the next set of slides. We're going to look at a few process flow diagrams that describe the inbound process. We'll review the put-away strategies that are available in EWM. I'll describe the use of warehouse tasks and warehouse orders and the concept of storage control in EWM. We're also going to look at unloading and how quality inspections can be managed with the quality inspection engine, and also deconsolidation and value-added services. So this is one possible document flow for the EWM inbound process. The process begins with a purchase order in the ERP system. We might have an advanced shipping notification, or ASN, transmitted to us by the vendor, which triggers the creation of an inbound delivery document in the ERP system. The inbound delivery notification, or IDN, in EWM is just a replication of the ERP inbound delivery in EWM. The data in the IDN is checked by EWM for completeness and consistency. If it passes these checks, then an EWM inbound delivery document can be activated. The EWM inbound delivery is the real working document in the EWM system against which we can record the completion of various warehouse activities. We create and confirm warehouse tasks against these inbound deliveries. And there's something not shown in the diagram. Warehouse tasks are always grouped into warehouse orders. A warehouse order is a work package for a user to carry out. It's put together by the system according to pre-configured rules and filters. And finally, updates to the EWM inbound delivery are communicated back to the ERP system. For example, the posting of goods receipts. This slide is showing an alternative document flow diagram for the EWM inbound process. This flow is suitable when you don't receive an ASN from your vendor. Instead, you want to post your receipts directly against the purchase order. The goods receipt notification, or GRN, is just a replica of the ERP purchase order. Once it passes some completeness and consistency data checks in EWM, we create an expected goods receipt, or EGR document. This EGR is a template to be used for any and all goods receipt postings against the purchase order. You don't post anything directly against the EGR. When you receive goods from the vendor, you create an EWM inbound delivery with reference to the EGR. And you can do this repeatedly as you receive multiple different shipments of goods against the same PO. So this process is really just another way of getting an inbound delivery generated in your EWM system when you don't receive ASNs from your vendor. This diagram is just a simplified business process view of a typical inbound process that can be modeled in SAP EWM. Your process may include any or all of these steps, and standard EWM radio frequency or RF transactions are available to support all of the steps throughout the inbound process. A fundamental part of the inbound process is the selection of destination storage bins for put away. SAP EWM supports the strategies that are listed here. They're the same strategies that are provided for in the ER PWM system. Each of these strategies can be activated by making appropriate storage type configuration settings and setting up suitable master data, such as storage bins and EWM product master data. And if none of these put away strategies as standard meet your needs exactly, there are 14 business add-ins or baddies available that you can use to customize them. So this is a graphical representation of how destination bins are determined in the EWM inbound process. You need to maintain warehouse-specific product master data, which is the EWM equivalent of material master data. And this is used in conjunction with the data found in the inbound delivery document and the configuration settings for your warehouse to determine one or more suitable storage bins for the put away. The system determines storage types that can be used for the put away using a storage type search sequence, and then at the storage type level, we can influence the bin selection using various constraints such as capacity checking and put away rules. We can further refine the selection using storage section and storage bin type searches. There are some distinct features in extended WM put away that you can take advantage of. One of these is the use of evaluation points, which you can apply to the search sequences for storage types, storage sections, and storage bin types. So as this diagram is suggesting, you can achieve a put-away strategy that works across an array of different storage types and storage sections. You could have the system search for all the bins in the fast mover sections in several storage types before searching for bins in any of the slow mover sections. This isn't possible in ER PWM system without the implementation of a user exit. So in one of our earlier slides, I mentioned the creation of EWM warehouse tasks and warehouse orders with reference to an inbound delivery document. These document types are the executable warehouse floor level documents in the EWM system. And there are a number of techniques that we can use to create them to optimize the efficiency of your operation. A warehouse task typically requires some quantity of a material to be moved, and it contains the data that identifies the material, such as a product number and possibly a batch number, as well as the quantity and information on the source and destination locations. A warehouse task may also be for an entire handling unit, such that all the materials contained on the handling unit are moved together. A warehouse order is a grouping of warehouse tasks, and it's assigned to a specific resource for execution. It's a work package, and it's meant to be carried out by one person. Warehouse orders are created according to task sorting and filtering rules, which you have to configure in EWM to suit your business requirements. So next up is the concept of storage control in EWM. Storage control allows multi-step processes to be defined in EWM. We'll take a closer look at this in the next couple of slides in relation to the inbound process. Basically, there are two types of storage control, process-oriented and layout-oriented storage control. Process-oriented storage control considers the attributes of your different materials to determine an appropriate sequence of process steps. Layout-oriented storage control, on the other hand, considers the limitations of your warehouse layout to determine how materials need to be moved to achieve a specific stock transfer. A storage process can also be defined using a combination of process-oriented and layout-oriented storage control. In process-oriented storage control, different materials are handled with different process steps. So in this diagram, The inbound material represented by the blue triangles along the top is subjected to a quality inspection step before being sent to a second work center for some kind of value-added service, such as special packaging. And then it's placed into storage bins in a forward pick area. The path at the bottom of the diagram shows different materials being unloaded on mixed pallets, and these mixed pallets are deconsolidated at a deconsolidation work center into homogeneous or non-mixed pallets before being placed into storage bins in a high rack storage area. This next slide, on the other hand, is showing a layout-oriented storage control, where the EWM system recognizes that a transfer of inbound materials to the high rack storage area first requires a movement to an ID point. The ID point is defined in EWM as a storage type, and so in this case, there are actually two moves that need to be executed. With process-oriented storage control, EWM gives us the ability to support complex inbound scenarios. And these are the four types of steps we can link together in a sequence. And we'll take a look at these in the next sequence of slides. So unloading, of course, is the physical unloading of materials from an inbound truck or trailer. And in EWM, we can record this unloading using standard RF screens to confirm the unloading of each pallet or handling unit. The status of the inbound delivery in EWM is updated by the completion of this activity, and we can also configure the system such that the goods receipt in the ERP system is posted in the background upon completion of the unloading. The system can also be set up using process-oriented storage control to create further warehouse tasks, such as transferring the pallets to an inspection or deconsolidation work center. Quality inspection in EWM usually involves a visual inspection to confirm the material is what was ordered and that the quantity is correct. EWM uses the Quality Inspection Engine, or QIE, to facilitate inspection. The QIE is a supply chain management component independent of the ERP system, and it can be used on its own or integrated within QM in the ERP system. And as you can see in the diagram, inspection documents can be created automatically when inbound delivery documents are activated in EWM. The inspection documents are released when the goods receipts are posted, and warehouse tasks are created automatically for transferring the materials to a QI work center. Next, we execute the quality inspection, and the results of the inspection are posted back into the inspection document in the QIE, and we can perform any follow-up actions required by the inspection results. For example, some of the material may need to be scrapped or transferred to a special area in the warehouse. Deconsolidation, as we've mentioned before, is the unpacking of mixed handling units so that different materials can be put away separately. After a mixed pallet has been unloaded, the EWM system has to decide whether the different products can be put away together. First, it uses the put-away strategies assigned to each product to determine the final destination storage bin for the individual products. Then it considers the activity area assignment for the destination bins. The activity area is linked to a consolidation group through configuration, so deconsolidation is relevant if the consolidation groups of the put-aways are different. Value-added services during put-away. We can build in one or more value-added service or VAS steps into the inbound process. Some examples of VAS activities are repacking, shrink wrapping, or labeling, and we use a VAS order to capture the details. We can collect data on the time spent on the activity. We can consume any auxiliary materials that were used up during the execution of the order. We can also record additional time and effort spent on the order. There's a user interface in the EWM system that we use to execute a value-added service step at a work center. And once we mark it as complete, the system can automatically generate another warehouse task for another subsequent VAS activity or for the final put-away. So next on the agenda is a little demonstration of the EWM inbound process. I'll be showing you a sequence of EWM screens that illustrate the actual processing of an inbound shipment into the warehouse. So this is the scope of the demonstration. We'll see an inbound delivery and warehouse tasks created in the system. We'll post the unloading, deconsolidation, and put away execution as we go along. And we'll be looking at standard RF screens provided in EWM for some of these functions. This screen is just a graphical representation of the scope of our demonstration. So these are the steps I'll be walking us through. So to begin the process, we have to create a purchase order in the ERP system. So this is just a simple PO with 2 line items on it. And in this scenario, the vendor has transmitted an ASN to describe the details of what was actually shipped against the purchase order. So I'm simulating the creation of the inbound delivery from the ASN, doing it with transaction VL31N. The ASN is being used, of course, to trigger this inbound delivery. And the data in the ASN includes information on the transportation method that was used. For example, an ID number is included here for the trailer containing the materials that were sent. And this information gets copied into this inbound delivery document. The vendor's ASN also included a pallet ID. In my example, I've just got a single pallet containing these 2 materials. And this pallet ID is being populated into the handling unit header record in SAP in the inbound delivery. The handling unit data can be entered into the system in different ways. This is just one way. Another way would be to automatically create the HU data in EWM using packaging specifications master data. So our first step in the EWM system is actually going to be a yard management activity. We need to check in the trailer using the trailer ID to key the arrival of the trailer, or transportation unit as it's known in EWM, at the yard. So this activity would occur at a physical checkpoint, the first location where an inbound vehicle can be identified. So here you can see that the TU has been checked in to the north checkpoint, which is modeled in SAP as a storage bin in a yard type storage type. And still in yard management, we now need to move the trailer, or TU, to the dock door so that we can begin the unloading activity. This is just like a bin-to-bin transfer, and here you can see the yard checkpoint as the source location for the transfer, and the warehouse door is the destination location. So once the TU has been moved to the dock, the unloading activity can be initiated in EWM by creating warehouse tasks. By keying the TU number into this transaction, the system finds all the handling units contained in it. In this case, we only have 1. You can see that this storage process, named INVK at the bottom there, this is the process-oriented storage control process that's been defined to include this unloading step. It also includes a deconsolidation step and a put-away step, which will come next. So here we're using the warehouse monitor to see the created warehouse tasks. They contain details on the source and destination locations for the handling unit, which in this case are the transportation unit as the source and the GR zone in the receiving staging area as the destination. So now we can confirm the unloading tasks using RF devices and standard EWM RF screens, which I'm showing here. We start by scanning or keying the ID number of the transportation unit or trailer. Then we can scan the individual handling units as they're taken out of the trailer. Then we need to scan in the destination location to verify that we're placing the pallets in the right place. After all the pallets have been unloaded, we can signal to the system that the truck has been completely unloaded, as you can see on the right. So based on the configuration of the unloading activity, the goods receipt in ERP has been posted already by the completion of the unloading activity. This is because the EWM goods receipt has been communicated back to the ERP system. This slide is simply showing that the material document postings in the inventory management system. So this is something that's configurable. The goods receipt could be posted as a separate step if that's preferred. So back in the warehouse monitor, also upon confirmation of the unloading tasks, the system generated further warehouse tasks. There's an active task here for the movement of the pallet to the deconsolidation work center, which is the task we're looking at here, and also a couple of inactive tasks for the transfer of the material to their final destination. The system has determined that deconsolidation is necessary because the pallet is a mixed pallet and the materials cannot be put away together. The deconsolidation work center is modeled as a storage bin in a work center type storage type, and you can see that this is the destination location for the pallet that needs to be deconsolidated. So now we're going to confirm the transfer of the mixed pallet to the deconsolidation work center. We could, for example, look up the open task by searching in the inbound queue as shown here, or we could just specify the HU number. Either way, the system is looking for the identification of the pallet that needs to be moved. And then on this next slide, we need to scan the destination information to verify that we're placing the pallet in the right place. And we would repeat this for any other pallets to be moved. So now we need to begin deconsolidating the mixed pallet. First, we need to identify the pallet by scanning the HU number, and then we list the open tasks for the items contained within this handling unit. We can select one of the open tasks based on the product ID, for example, and then we need to create a new handling unit because we need a separate one for deconsolidating the pallet. And this new pallet will be used as the put-away handling unit for the product that we just selected. So what we're doing here is simply moving the material of one product from the original pallet to a new pallet. After we've done that, the two pallets simply need to be closed. First, we have to close the original pallet provided by the vendor, and then we close out the new pallet. When we've done that, this really signifies the completion of the deconsolidation activity. And back in the EWM warehouse monitor, we can see the completed deconsolidation tasks and two open warehouse tasks, which are highlighted at the bottom. These are for the execution of the putaways into their final locations. We can start the confirmation by scanning in the HU number of the pallets, and once we arrive at the destination location, we scan in the location from a location barcode to verify that we're at the right place. These slides show the first item being confirmed at its destination, and then these two screens show the second item being confirmed. This is a list of material documents showing that the received materials were posted from one inventory management storage location 0005 into another storage location 0010. This posting occurred automatically when the put-away tasks were confirmed in EWM. So this is representing a business scenario where materials need to be kept unavailable from an ATP perspective until final put away. Other scenarios are possible. For example, you could post all the receipts directly into a single IM storage location. Either way is fine. The actual number of IM storage locations to be used is something that would have to be determined during your EWM implementation project. Now that we've unloaded and processed the whole shipment, we just need to move the transportation unit back to the checkpoint, which is what we're doing here, and then check it out from the yard using the Checkin Checkout functionality within EWM. And that is the last slide from the demo. And I have a few more slides left to describe some additional functionality that can be deployed in the inbound process in EWM. We've already seen a little bit of the yard management functionality in the demo. As I mentioned, it's embedded in the EWM system as opposed to being decoupled, as in the ER PWM system. One thing we did not show was the ability to monitor all the yard activities, vehicles, doors, and so on, through the WM warehouse monitor screen. Resource management is also integrated right into the EWM system. If you wanted this type of functionality with ER PWM, you would need to implement the task and resource management component of the LES software. So resource management basically consists of these three functions: resource control, queue management, and task interleaving. Resource control lets you manage the resource types, equipment types, task types, and all the relationships between them. Queue management really controls how RF work is proposed by the system to the users. And task interleaving, this is effectively using resources to perform different types of tasks in a sequence to minimize idle time and increase resource utilization. Labor management allows you to plan and measure labor times for warehouse resources. You could even create a linkage with the SAP HR system to invoke performance-based bonus payments. The inbound process is just one area where labor management can be applied. It's intended to be used across all your warehouse processes. And the system can be used to track indirect labor activities as well, such as meetings and other non-productive times such as lunch breaks. Finally, EWM supports a variety of cross-docking functionalities and methods. Generally speaking, these methods are grouped into planned cross-docking options, such as transportation cross-docking and merchandise distribution cross-docking. These are where the cross-dock decision is made before the goods arrive. And the other grouping is opportunistic cross-docking, where the cross-dock decision is made at the time of goods receipt. So the idea in either scenario is to reduce extra handling of materials by matching inbound stocks to outbound requirements without ever having to store the materials in your warehouse. Okay, well, we've reached the end of the main portion of the presentation. We're at the Q&A section now. So to help me with this, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Kyle Sorensen, who's a Director of SAP Solutions with Logistar.
Great, thanks, Doug. I've been rounding up questions as they've been coming in here, so bear with me. I'm trying to organize all these, but one of them that have come in was, what is EWM suitability to high volume shipping, i.e. 300 trucks per day over 3 shifts, with a pick labor varying from 30 minutes to 10 hours per truck? So it's a two-part question. That's the first part. I'll have you try and answer that one first, Doug.
Yeah, I think the answer would be that SAP designed EWM specifically around high volume and high complexity warehouses. They also provided the scalability and flexibility for organizations who need the capabilities of EWM but are not high volume. So the high volume is not an issue.
Okay. The other part of that question was, is yard management functionality part of EWM?
Yeah, and I think I might have covered that earlier in the slides.
Yeah.
It is part of it, and it can be either activated or deactivated as per your business's needs.
I want to remind the audience to go ahead and use the chat panel to send in additional questions as we're going through these. We can still answer some possibly as you submit. Another one, Doug, was it's around EWM deployment options. Can you describe what the options are for deployment in a little more detail?
Okay. Well, if you already have SAP's supply chain management software installed on a separate server in your landscape, then it would make the most sense to run the EWM software on that SCM server. And I believe that's the more common scenario that's typically implemented. If you don't plan to install SCM in your landscape, then you do have the option of implementing it, EWM as an add-on inside your ERP system. And I believe there's more information available on these different architecture options in the SAP Service Marketplace.
Great. I've gotten 3 questions that have come in. They're very similar in nature. I'll read them out and I'll go ahead and just answer them because the answer is pretty close to the same for all of these, if you don't mind, Doug. One of them was, does the deconsolidation process require the use of handling units at the IM or inventory management level? And the answer is no. You can do deconsolidation just within EWM using the HUs active only in extended warehouse management. You do not have to rely on HUs at the ERP inventory management level. The other question was, again, is the implementation of handling units at IM level mandatory? Again, the answer would be no. And then the third one is the storage location in ECC. Does that need to be HU managed? And again, the answer would be no. Let me see here. Oh, yes, I think you've demoed this one. Can you implement both variations of the inbound process, so with ASN and without ASNs? Because we have some vendors who transmit ASNs and some vendors who don't.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely possible to implement both variations. I think EWM recognizes that you'll have some vendors that send ASNs and some that don't. So those 2 variations that I showed near the beginning of the slides cover both scenarios, and you can accommodate both simultaneously.
Okay. Here's more of a general one. How many EWM customers are there?
You want me to take that one, Kyle?
Or I can take it too. From what the last figures that I've had, there are roughly 100 clients that are live worldwide, and that is about 180 sites. So, there's a lot of clients that are in the process of evaluating EWM. They may be, in the process of doing a prototype or blueprinting the solution. We know of a lot of customers that already own the SCM license. But from what we understand from the clients that are actually live on EWM, there's 100 worldwide and consisting of about 180 sites. I guess that's another one. Another further question is, how many EWM implementations has Logistar done? I can take that. Again, we've been involved in probably right around 25 or just a little bit north of 25 projects to date. Those vary in multiple forms. That's varying in everything from an assessment to a prototype to a completed implementation that, you know, with the client being live, or these are active projects that are currently, you know, are actively engaged upon. Some more questions that are coming in. To what degree is standard RF transactions available in EWM? Do you want to take that, Doug, or you want me to take that?
Well, I'll start. You can
Sure.
add in. Yeah, well, SAP has done, I think, a really good job of providing RF screens and transactions that flow really well, that support the whole, not only inbound but also outbound and all the internal processes of unloading goods from vehicles, put away, deconsolidation, inventory counting, inspections, packing. I mean, you can do the whole range, pretty much anything that a warehouse worker needs to do physically out on the warehouse. He can update EWM transactions through RF screens. There aren't too many exceptions to that. So I've found the screens to be very, very good and complete.
Yeah, and just to add on that, I mean, I know from like an ERP WM perspective, the transactions that were there were meant to be served as more of a template. Not a lot of clients use those out of the box. I think there were roughly around 50 transactions that SAP had delivered, and with EWM, I think it's over. It's closer to 100 transactions that are part of the standard solution. A lot more robust. One of the typical ones that a lot of clients were asking for was a simple bin-to-bin transaction. In EWM, that's now a standard transaction. So thank you, SAP, for that. Looks like we have a follow-up question from the previously the handling unit discussion. It says, is the implementation of handling units mandatory to be implemented in EWM for the usage of EWM? If you want to take that.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, the implementation of HUM, handling unit management, it's not a prerequisite for using handling units in EWM. For example, I mean, you can use handling units in the inbound and outbound delivery process on the ERP side for packing of deliveries without using handling unit management, and that's still true. Any handling units that are created in the EWM system in relation to an inbound delivery or an outbound delivery will still get transferred to the ERP delivery, but you don't need handling unit management on the ERP side to support that.
Great.
Does that capture the question pretty well?
Yeah, it looks. I think you've got it. Right. Are purchase order tolerances checked in EWM upon receipt?
Yeah, yes. EWM checks the tolerances, so it can be over or under delivery, and if they're maintained on the ERP side in the purchase orders, those are checked when they come into EWM during the creation of the inbound delivery.
Okay. This is more of a general one, I guess. We are considering implementing EWM. Are there tools available to help us make a more informed decision if that is the right direction?
Well, yeah, I think the answer is Logistar has logistics assessment services that we can provide, as well as presentations that can provide additional information and help your discussions to get you going in the right direction.
Another one, any difference between SU storage units and HU's handling units? I can take that one. Really, in EWM, the concept of a storage unit is not, it's not there. So in ER PWM, you're probably familiar with, you had a storage unit and you had a concept of a handling unit. So in EWM, it's all handling units. So really the biggest differences, we actually do have a white paper on storage units versus handling units, but the biggest differences are things like the HU can exist outside the four walls of the warehouse. So if I want to see, license plate, tracking and visibility, like for example in SD or in PP or other modules, then I can use handling units. If I want to be able to nest, so I want to track, for example, unique case IDs, and then put those IDs, associate those onto a pallet ID. That's considered like a nesting function. That's what handling units will give you, where storage units really are not designed to be nested. Hopefully that answers the bulk of that question. This is a tricky one. In 3 sentences, what is the difference between ER PWM and EWM? We are using ER PWM currently. I can try and take that. So 3 sentences, I would say more advanced functionality, such as labor management, slotting, rearrangement, ability to handle highly complex and high volume distribution centers. Complex being I can map my business processes in process-oriented storage control. That's probably over 3 sentences, but I think that's probably the biggest differences that I can come up with right there. We had a few more here come in. This one was not really related to your presentation. This one looks like it was submitted prior to the start of the webinar, but it says, what's the difference between ERP dynamic cycle counting and SCM dynamic cycle counting? Do you want that one, Doug?
Well, I'll take a shot. I think the answer is that there's really no difference, except that in the SCM EWM side, all the counting methods can be done dynamically. So annual or continuous inventory, you can do the dynamic counting approach in those. So does that capture it okay?
Yeah, I think that's probably good. Yeah. Here's another one. Is there any site that EWM is used as a centralized warehouse with PSA, which is a production supply area, that's in EWM? I don't know of anybody offhand that's using that live. I was over in Waldorf doing pre-release testing on version 7.01, and that's I was testing a lot of the production supply capability. It is really the same kind of strategies are there that you would have seen in the ERP to the PPPI integration. So your crate parts, your pick parts, your release order parts. So that functionality is there. They also have multiple models of kind of how you're pointing out. Is the PSA being used as a bin within EWM? Is it being used in maybe a different storage location? So I know the capability is definitely there to handle that, receiving from production and supplying to production. I don't know of a client that's live anyway doing the production staging. We have another one here. I'm trying to decipher this question. This one is EWM uses TRM screen or LM screen for RF devices. I'm not sure if they're referring to, is it using task and resource management, or LM meaning the LMOB functions of RF, or labor management. So I'm not real, sure what the question is, if they can rephrase, but essentially I'll try and give it a shot. So the whole RF design for EWM that's native for EWM it's all based on SAP Console still. You can still use ITS Mobile if you wish, but the underpinnings of the RF absolutely it uses functionality of TRM. So for example, Doug mentioned the resource capabilities that the RF can deploy. So when you log onto the RF, I log on as a user and I log on to a certain piece of equipment. For example, if I'm operating a fork truck or a hand jack maybe. So it does leverage TRM components that you would have known of from TRM, you know, XYZ coordinates, how fast my resource moves, how high it lifts, constraints. So it does understand that. And as far as the LM, if we're actually talking labor management capabilities, absolutely, that's baked in to EWM if you're using labor management. So you don't have to activate labor management, but if you did activate it, you can track true heel-to-toe movements. You know, when I clock in on the start of the day, I can start at, you know, my goods, my shipping dock. When I get on my forklift and go to my first pick, it's already tracking, you know, that task that's been now assigned to my resource. So the clock is truly started. And then when I go and drop the goods off, you know, the clock stops and that task then has been recorded for that resource as part of the labor management functionality, which, you know, labor management in a nutshell is just a means of recording and reporting off of your labor in the warehouse based on, you know, either your own standards or even, you know, some heavily, you know, engineered labor standards. I hope that answers that question. I think we have time for maybe one more question. We have multiple warehouses using ER PWM. If we turn on SCM EWM, can we do one warehouse at a time? I assume config would differentiate. Again, I can take that. Again, SCM EWM is going to be on the SCM platform. So with that box, you can, you know, stand up or activate one warehouse. Absolutely. So you could be running other warehouses in your ERP environment. On WM, you could be running, you know, your converted warehouse that used to be ER PWM. You know, there is you know, there are elements of that can be transposed over to the SCM EWM warehouse storage type sections and bins. Some of the strategies, but for the most part, it is a net new implementation. But yes, you can. So the config would be different, but you can stand up one warehouse at a time. A lot of our clients are going down that path, you know, choosing a prototype warehouse to install at first and then doing further rollouts. So hopefully that answers that question. I also want to point out we do provide the attendees with a PDF copy of this presentation, so we'll be sending that out to the folks that are registered. Also, this webinar was recorded, and it'll also be available online at our on our website. So this really will wrap up the questions for today. Please feel free to send any follow-on questions to the email address on the screen, and any questions that I did not get to and Doug did not get to answer today, we will get back with those folks as well on providing answers. So on behalf of Logistar Solutions, Doug, Gavin, and myself, we'd all like to thank you for attending the webinar today. Hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar. We have a WM versus EWM, but for the outbound process. So very similar to what you saw today, but all based on outbound. That's scheduled for January 11th. So if you've already registered for it, you'll receive a webinar, the webinar details in the next few days. And if you haven't registered, you can visit our website homepage, the news and events section for further details. So this concludes our presentation. Again, thank you very much. Have a great day.